The timer has already started, and I have exactly 100 days to be standing back at this altar with the fodder trophy fresh from the Ashlands in hand, or the video is over and we have lost our challenge. I need to begin heading for the first boss as time is already ticking, but while I am moving there, let's talk about why I'm even doing this. In about a month from this video dropping, Valheim 1.0 will drop, and when it does, I will be doing a full playthrough from start to finish in one single live stream. And in order to be able to do that, I'm going to have to learn how to play what's already existing in the game so much faster than I can now. So while I don't want to necessarily be speedrunning, I will have a really tight timeline on that stream, and this is the best preparation that we can get for it. Now that being said, this entire thing was streamed, so if you want to see the VOD playlist of every single second of the streams, they will be down below, as well as if you guys want to be there the next time we stream something like this, make sure to sub and make sure to hop in the Discord down below so you can see what it's happening. But we are working towards the first boss, and while I may not necessarily do all of the bosses, we need to kill the last one for sure, so let's go over the strat of which ones I plan to kill and why, and where we are going to be heading first. Before we talk about the strat though, the biome diversity was already really nice. We have a mountain, we have a black forest, but we also have bears and 2-star skeletons running around right at the edge of it, so it's something to keep in mind as we slowly get in here. For right now though, the strat is, and this may change as we move, is to kill at least the first two bosses, grab an iron pickaxe, rush for silver as quick as we can, and then with silver gear we will go to the Mistlands, build ourselves a black forge, and push straight to the Ashlands. With the black forge we should be able to make flame metal weapons, and to smelt flame metal we will also have to kill modders, so we will have to do that with our silver gear as well. So the goal is kill the first two bosses, skip bone mass, kill the mountains boss, and then move straight to the Ashlands boss, with any amount of small progression stuff like getting black metal for the purpose of like cooking station upgrades in between. But we've got our deer trophies now ready, and it's time to get this first boss down on the very early morning of the second day, and get moving towards the black forest, because the more of this early stuff we get out of the way, the more we can focus on the much more luck-based and terrifyingly dangerous stuff, like going into the mountains very unprepared. Damn, bro. The fires do something else for damage. Holy shit! How am I lagging in single player? Oh, come on. And in the very early morning of day 2, we can hang the Eikthyr trophy with 0 deaths reported so far, and start heading into the black forest that we already know is nearby. Now right at the very edge we had a lot of grey dwarfs and stuff, and a couple of small structures that we could go into to just find a couple of basic black forest resources. But in one of the first very early structures that we found, we got so lucky to find ourselves an elder location, which we are going to just start heading straight for. Again, it's not necessarily a speed run, but if we can like get over there and maybe build our base near elder, that might not be a bad spot. And on the way we'll grab Surtling cores, we'll grab everything that we can out of some burial chambers, and we'll just try and keep ourselves generally alive over everything else, because a death running back to our body would cost us a lot of time. But the elder location is one of the biggest things that could stop us from being able to progress, so I'm really glad that we have it. We're going to prep some stuff so that we'll have portals and some good smelting capacity later, and we're going to go for a few more black forest things before we even head over there. But we are headed straight for elder, and I was honestly kind of caught off guard by one of the first things that I found on my way there. Now having troll hide for the elder would be an absolutely beautiful thing, especially if we had a lot of it, which we were given pretty much the perfect opportunity to get if we can actually pull it off without dying. We found a troll sitting outside of a cave right inside the black forest that we were already running through, but on the inside of the troll cave where I was hiding from the original one was a 1-star troll, which will drop enough for us to get 2 pieces. We can kill the one outside for a 3rd piece of troll hide, and we will be able to have all of the armor except the cape, which right now the cape is not too important. But because there's a troll outside, I will not be able to place a bed, or I will have to kill it before I do so, so that is exactly what we're going to have to do before we go deal with that 1-star inside. After getting that troll down, I didn't just want to make a bed outside of this troll cave, but I decided to make an actual like little base out here. We won't keep this here for long because we have to keep moving, but I did have the stuff on me to make an upgraded workbench, which means I can make armor before going in to fight this troll. And it probably won't help in the case that we get smacked, but I'll take everything that I can get. We have our spawn point set outside, we've got a little base. It's time to go in and see if we can kill this troll. And if we can, we will leave this cave in pretty much full troll hide, missing just the cape. With no rested buff, killing that 1-star troll honestly took way longer than I would have expected, but it does not matter because now we can make our chest piece, we can make our headpiece, and we now have enough armor for me to confidently go pretty far into the game right now. But that means it is time to head towards the Elder, and the Elder is on a different island, so we have to drop our boat in the water and start to set sail for what I hope will be a smooth journey to Elder. Sailing over to Elder really wasn't too bad, but we did run into a Leviathan on the way there, which we did of course stop at, and it isn't enough to make anything like an Abyssal Harpoon or a Razor, but it is one step closer to when we do find our next one. Arriving on what seemed to be the Elder Island, I picked up my boat, that way if I do have to run it to the other side, or if this isn't the island that Elder's on, we could drop it back in the water. We slept for the night, and then I was exactly right. It was not the right island. And honestly, looking at it now, the Elder Island was probably one that was connected to the Altar Island. I just didn't even think to run there because of where the coastline was. But now we're on the Elder Island and it's time to see what it has in store for us. This wasn't only the Elder Island, but this was also the home of Haldor, which is really, really nice and very, very lucky. Haldor is one of the 2 traders that we will need for this playthrough, or at least will need to make it a lot more possible, though it is technically possible without them. But with my current plan, we want Haldor and we want Bogwitch, so this is absolutely huge. But we don't have any money, so we'll come back to him later, and we might actually build our base over here just because of how much good stuff it's close to. Right now, we have everything to start Elder, so we're going to do so, because right after this, we will have to find a spot for a base and begin some of the more complicated ideas for this playthrough that will push us all the way to the end. And it's only day 4, so the quicker we can get to those ideas, the better. Ah, shit. That's gonna be a problem. We didn't make a bow, so like, as far as this early part, oh, we did not get enough wood for this either, but that's fine. We're chilling. I think he has some amount of like, I think the Elder has some amount of like distance around, just to stop the roots from getting, like, getting stuck in its own roots. Okay, see, that hurt. Holy shit. Let's not take a death to this, please. This would be kind of a dumb way to die. The double dodge to get away from the root was kind of terrifying. Five minutes left to kill Elder before we run out of rested. Anything until then is fine. Boom. With Elder down, I still have a lot of things to do in the Black Forest, and I do honestly want to build my base over here. However, there are a few things that I already noticed that I have skipped that I'm going to have to go back and redo, which while I skipped them for the purpose of speed, going back to have to redo things like putting a portal at Altar is really not going to help speed us up that much. So we need to be careful of trying to skip things that we will eventually need, as those are not going to help us do this faster at all. For right now, though, we have another troll that we were able to have it help us get a ton of copper, and we are going to spend a decent amount of time doing a few of the burial chambers to get ourselves enough smelters and kilns to absolutely rip through metal, because while a giant base is not necessarily the thing that I would associate with speedrunning, but having enough resources to smelt our metal and everything else really quickly will genuinely speed up our time a lot. And we ended up doing this with a few trolls, and honestly, the one thing that I learned from this is that there is never enough copper, and if you have the opportunity to get a troll to break stuff for you, especially one that doesn't have a bat but is just using its fists, you should actually have it break like 5 to 10 copper nodes at surface level, put all of them in a chest or put a workbench nearby so that the stuff doesn't despawn, and actually just get way more than you will ever need. It takes less than an in-game day to do that if you have the copper nodes already marked out and you happen to find a troll, and other than that, it is just absolutely absolutely insane for how much you will need, and it just saves you so much time when you realize that you need it in the future. However, getting all of these copper nodes marked out, as well as getting some trolls to break them, we did get ourselves a fun little surprise in the Black Forest. Oh my god, is that a Rocky? Hold on. That is. Let's go, we got a Rocky. With our new mysterious companion back at base, we have an opportunity to go back and fix some of the things that I skipped that I should not have. So we're going to make some bronze, turn that into a bronze axe, and go start working on the stuff for portals. Now, I don't have a meadows on this island, so we might have to go get the stuff for portals and then come back to base, place one here, and then take one back to altar, which could take a while. But with our boat, we know that we're fairly close to altar. I know where there's a decent amount of fine wood at, and it may just have to take a little bit of time to learn the mistake of we should have had portals on that island before we ever left. Of course we do. Of course we did. Why wouldn't we get a serpent? How bad does that actually hurt our boat? Oh, quite bad, you know. Like, quite bad. Oh, come on. We're fucking alive, baby! Holy shit. And after a minor heart attack, we are ready to tackle having both a carve and some portals. Now, I have bronze nails, so with this fine wood, not only am I going to unlock the ability to make portals, but I'm going to unlock the ability to make a carve, and we're going to do that first, because I want to go back and show that serpent what's up. Because that was a storm serpent, they do not despawn during the day, so he should still be over there. We'll go kill the serpent, get some scales, get some meat, and hopefully a trophy, but even if we just get the meat, this will be a really, really good starter food for us. We'll be able to go back to our base, as well as the altar, and drop our first set of portals, and then from there we can start worrying about the very quick swamp session that we'll have. Luckily for me, I was right. Because it was a storm serpent, it did not go anywhere, and it stayed into the daytime, which was now quickly becoming night. We're able to quickly kill it, and though we didn't get the trophy that we will eventually need, that's okay, because we'll be able to cook this food after we get some iron, and that is where we're headed very, very soon. We got a portal at base, we got a portal at altar, as well as we got the elder head put up where it belongs on the altar, and the next time we'll be back here is either after the Ashlands or after the mountains, depending on which route we decide to take, as I have two possible plans for how we get to that last boss. But both of them are going to take iron. So we're going to drop our boat back on the shore near our base and start heading to find the nearest swamp. We are... Uh-oh. On our way to the swamp, we did find ourselves another serpent, but this time we are much better prepared than we were last time, and we were able to take it down and get ourselves some serpent meat. Now, we will have a ton of serpent hunting that we will probably have to do, because we need serpent meat, we need scales, and we will also need a serpent trophy. So depending on luck, we may need to spend a lot of time hunting these later in the playthrough. But for right now, I'm going to focus on the swamp, and I found one pretty close to base. Now, this one didn't have any swamp crypts in it, but what it did have was some more basic swamp drops like blood bags, and I went ahead and took those back to base and made them into a frost resist mead, so that way we can have them for the mountains, and while those are fermenting, we can go look for a better swamp. And the next one was a lot better. Now, we did make some stupid decisions here inside one of the crypts, completely unrested and with not very good food. I got myself my first death, but that doesn't really matter. As long as I don't die in a stupid way that stops me from progressing, I will be okay. For this swamp trip specifically, we really don't need that much iron because we're not looking for all of the iron for our entire run. We're just looking for the first little bits of it, and the idea is we can leave a portal here and come back later. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and mark out all of the swamp crypts and check if any of them have some easy iron that I can just grab and throw on the boat since my pickaxe is broken, and we can bring it all back to base shortly. But we also took all of our tradables over to Haldor and sold them because we are working our way towards a belt and a fishing rod, and it's pretty close to our base, so anytime we get tradables from something like the swamp crypt or burial chambers, we need to just take them over there and sell it before I forget. But heading back to base, we got exactly 35 iron, and that is not bad because that is enough for a boat, a pickaxe, one of the advanced cooking stations, and a stonecutter, which is exactly the stuff that I need. That is exactly 35 iron, and we can start using that stuff stuff to build ourselves up a slightly better base. Now, we don't want to spend a ton of time building our base up, but we do want to spend a decent amount of time making a nice little area to stay in, and also because we are still going to need all of the basic things that you would need in a base. We're going to still need a cooking area, a crafting area, a storage area. We're going to need a good rested area, and we're going to need a little bit of room to keep stuff, or else it's going to get really messy and actually start to slow us down. While we were gone getting iron as well as building our base, our frost mead finished fermenting, which means as soon as we want to go to the mountains, we now have the ability to, but I still have some things to get done here, as well as getting the iron smelted into stuff to take to the mountain before I actually go. But as soon as we are ready, we now have that stuff, and I honestly maybe might start either a second one of those or a healing mead because we were probably going to need them in the mountains. For now though, we can start moving everything from our little camp base up there down into this area with all of our crafting stations, the old ones as well as the new ones like the stone cutter, and we can start building it into a little base. Now we will probably have to expand this at some point, but for right now, being not necessarily a speed run but a quick play of the game, this actually looks pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with this, and I do think we have most of the room that we will need for an entire playthrough. The main structure of our base is now done, and there are a few things that we need to get to make it a lot better. The biggest one being chains. We need it for armor, we need it for the cooking station, and we need it for the forge upgrades, as well as we will need it for a couple of other things in the future. For right now, though, it's to the swamp to hunt for wraiths, which we did find a couple of, but this probably will not be our last hunt for wraiths in the swamp at night, because we are going to need a ton of these depending on what we decide to build. With those couple, though, we did get enough for us to move our cauldron down, we got enough for us to move our mead kiln down, and we can make our entire cooking area with a better cooking station down here, as well as start to work on some of our stuff around our forge, which is now starting to make this base much more our main base, and we shouldn't really have to go back up to the camp that often other than to smelt metal. Alright, that is that. Some of that was for the... Oh wait, no, the last 5's for the cultivator. Exactly. Alright. Dude, it's like we planned this, and then I just kept going without knowing what the plan was, and it still has somehow worked out. Because now we get the core wood to make the cultivator, we have everything that we literally need, and we're good to go. Because I always play in multiple play sessions, I did forget a couple of things that I had already planned for, but everything worked out in the end. We have our iron pickaxe, we have our nails for our boat, and we have our cultivator, which we will come back to farming stuff in a little bit. For right now, though, it has been enough time of having our frost mead that I'm ready to go to the mountains. So let's take our frost meads, let's take our new boat, and let's take a set of portals or two, and let's head over to the mountain right across the water to look for some silver, to look for the martyr location, and to look for any of the other mountain stuff that we may need, like onions, and just try and keep ourselves safe. The number one goal here is to not slow ourselves down, even if we don't get an insane amount of progress. Now, I approached the mountain with only one portal, which means we had to leave a bed at the bottom, just in case we died we wouldn't lose progress, because again, the biggest thing we don't want is losing a massive amount of progress that would really impact the amount of time that we spend. For right now, though, we headed up the mountain, we started digging for silver, and we were pretty unlucky. We did get a lot of other stuff that we needed. We got a lot of wolf hide, and we got our onion seeds, which really isn't too bad, as well as we got a good portal location set up, but for the time being, we really just did not find any silver, so we'll have to head back in the morning and try again. But the next day when I got on and started stream, we had something that for some reason started happening a lot. As soon as we logged in, we had a troll right outside the base. No, it was not a raid, it just decided to spawn right there. So that is how we started our day. But after we defeated that troll, which again, we'll have to start looking out for, we started planting our onion seeds, we started planting our carrot seeds, and the only thing that we have left at this point for plants is we need to find a couple of turnips just to plant for the spice rack. But with those planted, and while we wait for them to grow, we are going to head back up onto the mountain to find ourselves some silver. Now, even though all of the digging I did yesterday really meant nothing because I found nothing from it, walking straight up the mountain, I found a piece of silver sticking out of the side. So we didn't even have to dig at all. And we got it broken and cleared out pretty quickly. It wasn't attached to too many rocks or anything, and it made it really nice and easy. We can put a chest up here with all of the silver and stone for right now, and then we're actually going to head back down the mountain. You see, we need a bunch of tradables from a bunch of dungeons because we need to go buy ourselves the belt, because silver is extremely heavy and getting it down the mountain will be so much faster even if we take the small detour to do this. So we did that, we got our belt made, or we got our belt bought, and we are headed back up to the mountain. We're going to go through a few frost caves, and then we are also going to try and get our silver down the mountain and on the boat so we can bring it back. This won't be enough silver to do everything, this won't be enough silver for the entire playthrough, but this mountain is pretty close to our base, and this will be enough silver to smelt up and keep ourselves a lot safer than we are now. We're headed back with exactly 75 silver, and also we did do that frost cave, but there wasn't much in it. The entire point of doing the frost cave was only for the purpose of finding motor, which we did not find. So for right now, we're going to leave a portal over here. We also brought a dragon egg down the mountain for when we do find the location, and we can move on to smelting our silver and making the stuff that we need to make with it. I will say, once we started getting our silver smelted up, it was an absolute heyday of just crafting as many things as I could. We were so behind on so many different types of gear and weapons and stuff that I was so happy to be moving on to silver tier. We got our first cooking station upgrade made, and we will have turnips shortly. So once we get caught up with our plants, we will be able to have a well upgraded cooking station. We got a fang spear to replace our flint spear. We got ourselves a wolfhide cape to keep myself warm, and we got a drake helmet made with our drake trophies, which is going to give us a good bit more armor without slowing us down, which is why I picked to make that single piece first. Before returning to the mountains, we also found ourselves some turnips in the swamp, which we are going to go ahead and plant and let grow while we are up in the mountains searching for more stuff. But while those are growing, and with our new gear, we are going to go back through the portal that we left on top of that nearby mountain to look for more stuff, to look for the modder location, and to just get more things for gear. We need more wolf pelt, we need more dragon eggs, we need more wolf fangs, and we could use some more onion seeds if we can find them. Now, unfortunately, the ice cave we started in did not have us a boss location. However, a tiny little tower halfway inside the mountain did. So we now have a location to head for. We got more onion seeds from there, and we have a decent amount of the drops that we will need. As well as we will leave the portal over here until I'm ready to go towards the next mountain. But for right now, we need to go cook up food and stuff. Now, I did bring another egg down the mountain, and we have one on the boat. So if we sail from our base to the base of this mountain to pick up this egg, we will have 2 of them on us when we get over to the boss, meaning we only have to find 1 on that mountain minimum, and that should stop us from having a progress problem of not having enough eggs. Now, we still have some things to do to prep, but that is all set up now whenever we want to go for it, and it's time to start getting the last couple pieces of gear that we will need for motor and for us to start working towards the Mistlands and Ashlands. Now, there are a lot more pieces of silver that I can make, but how many of them I will make will be determined by how much time I want to spend on it. And right now, because we're trying to get through this quickly, it's about none. So the biggest thing that I still want to craft is the Draugr Fang. And anything other than that, like armor and stuff, is going to be extra if we end up having the silver for it. But if we don't, that is okay. We also headed back to the swamp for another night to get some more wraiths, just to get some extra chains. We will need them for the chest piece if we decide to craft it, but we will need them for some other things as well. We also got ourselves the Draugr Fang crafted, and we got the fang spear and helmet upgraded, which means we will do a little bit more damage, we'll have a tiny bit more protection, and we now have a decent range solution. So I think it's time for us to hop on the boat and head out to Motor to hopefully have a flawless fight and head home, because again, right after that, we are focused on Mistlands and Ashlands, and it's only day 22, so if we can get there that quickly, that would be amazing. With 1 egg on the boat, the next stop for us is the nearby mountain that we left a second egg at the bottom of, and on our way there, we purposely left at nighttime to look for more serpents, and we got one. Now, unfortunately for us, this one did not drop a trophy, but we did get some more meat, and we will probably be using that meat as well as stew when we do go into the further biomes and for this boss fight. But it was when I got to the bottom of this mountain to pick up the egg that I realized the horrible mistake that I had made. Pick up our dragon egg and drop it on the boat with our portal. Start sailing up to Moder as we hit morning. Do I need to... I'll go back and get rested real quick just in case. Oh, I have fucked up royally. Okay. Now, the original plan was not even to take a new portal with us. It was to pick the one up that was at the bottom of that mountain. But in order to save time, back at our base, I had only been using one single portal that I had been changing the name of depending on where I had to go. And right now, that portal was still set to go to the altar and not to the bottom of the mountain where I had ended up. Which means we would either have to hope that we didn't die on Moder and have no way to get back to base, or we would have to take a second death, resetting our spawn and / dying to go back to altar, hope my portal was connected there, and then come through and rename the one at our base to this one so we could get back and forth. Which is what I ended up doing, because again, this one isn't about deaths, this one is about time, and while I'd like to avoid silly mistakes like that, there are at least tools in the game to save myself from stupid situations like that. But with that little problem solved, we headed up the mountain with our portal, as well as one of the eggs. We got our portal set in a nearby location that's not too close, but not too far in case we die, and we were able to get the rest of the eggs from the top of the mountain itself, which is really nice. Now, obviously, we had extras in case this didn't happen, which you should always try and do, but it's okay, because we had plenty up here, and the Moder Mountain does normally have a couple of them. But with that being said, this was probably one of the most underprepared fights I have ever done, even more so than I had to be for the speed of the challenge. Alright, what do you guys think? We just start it now? We just rip straight into it? How smart of an idea would that be? Very, let's go. We made no arrows or anything. We got this. Yeah, Moder on honey. Exactly. Extremely smart. Clearly the best decision we could have made. That was not well thought out at all. And with 12 arrows, an unfixed fang spear, and troll hide gear, we were off to the races fighting Motor, which is one of the stupidest ways that I have ever started a boss fight. But honestly, if we're careful and a little bit smart here, we may have to go back to base once or twice, but this actually should be plenty of gear to get through the fight. Our bow is also not repaired, and our rested buff is almost out. And that was the first thing that I tried to fix. Oh, fuck. It's fine, we can wait till she lands again. If we had done that earlier, we would have been fine. We'll be back in just a second. Maybe talking a little too much shit. Okay, we're out of arrows. That's fine. We didn't need those anyways. That was the mistake. You came down here with me. I'm not trapped up here with you. You're trapped down here with me. Okay. Now that with no arrows sucks a little bit. Not gonna lie. Not as big of a fan of that part. Not gonna say that throwing that up here is a necessarily smart idea, but it's clearly okay. Save some stamps, we can get a good stabbing spree in. That's the biggest part about the spear, dude. 10 stam for as fast as it hits is kind of crazy. That's gonna hit. Ah, stone golem. Not a fan of the stone golem either, really. If she picks up that arm to hit me, it's a problem. And despite a ridiculous start, as well as going back to base and forgetting to make arrows, we are completely done with the mountains, and we can now head on to what will be our next journey, which will be the Mistlands and Ashlands combo. Now we'll kind of progress them together and in a lot different ways than you normally would, starting with swimming to the Ashlands as well as a few other things that we need to do, but for right now, we got the things that we came for. We can now smelt any metal in the game, which was the purpose of killing this boss, and we will start to work on black metal, Mistlands gear, as well as Ashlands gear all at the same time. The next day, as soon as I started, we had the same visitor as the previous day, this time with a much more destructive weapon, and I guess this is now the theme of every single time that I decide to log back into this world. But with this guy taken care of and all of the damage cleaned up, I decided that it might be time for us to expand the base a little bit. I know we just kind of got done finishing the inside of the previous one, but we really need storage badly. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy or super organized, but just something to give me a little bit more than I have now. So we're going to spend a decent amount of the start today doing all of that stuff, getting everything from the old base moved in, and just getting everything organized, because as I said earlier, having good organization is going to stop me from looking through chests over and over and over again, which at the end of the day may actually save more time than I end up spending building this entire storage area. But with a small bit of storage sorted, we are going to head down the Motor Mountain and into the nearby plains for some black metal. Now, because I'm probably going to have to sail back anyways, getting black metal is not going to be too bad of a thing right now. But in the future, if we need any more, we will likely end up waiting until we have ourselves some stone portals, because that will just make this so much faster. But I will also say, from this village, we could use a little bit of flax and we could use a ton of barley for a bunch of fire resist meads. So we need to get this entire thing cleaned out, grab as many of those types of things as we can, but we'll just kind of take this as our first little jump into the plains, which shouldn't last very long before we start going to the further biomes. Now, the village itself that I picked was absolutely full of stuff good and bad, which we'll go over in just a second, but the amount of berserkers and shamans in here was kind of insane, especially for what seemed to be a small village. And as well as the amount of like 1 and 2 star feelings that were hanging out in here that were ready to completely one-shot me. But I made a couple arrows, which we did not have for the boss fight, and we also still have our fang spear and stuff, which is actually fairly well equipped for being inside of the plains. We just need to be a little bit careful with it. But let's look at everything that we got from this. From this village, I got what would definitely be enough black metal for me to at least start on my tools whenever I get to that point, if I end up needing them. But I also got enough barley and flax to reasonably supplement the entire run for fire resistance meads and the small amount of linen that I will need without planting anything, which will save us a ton of time. But that means that we have everything and it is time to head back to base with our black metal and with a few other things as well. But on our way back, I do plan to look for something special that will help us in our swim to the Ashlands. Pretty close after leaving our island from fighting the boss and getting our black metal, I found the exact thing that I was looking for. We found the Bog Witch, which will open up the possibility for us to make the Vanadier Mead, which will allow us to swim a lot better to the Ashlands. This combined with the fact that we can actually use the Eikthyr buff and possibly have the trinket should make this swim a lot better. And while it doesn't guarantee it, it gives us so many more chances to make it there successfully. But while I'm here, I'm going to grab as much iron as I can. I'm going to buy out everything I'll need from the Bog Witch because I don't plan on having to come back here, and I do not plan on leaving a portal here, so hopefully we get everything that we need from the Bog Witch and from this swamp for the rest of the playthrough. Because I made a few stops on the way back from the boss fight, I had a lot of stuff to unload when we got back to base, and I still have an extra dragon egg that I'm not necessarily sure what I'm going to do with, but at this point I might just bring it with me for good luck, because as soon as I had the entire boat unloaded, it was time to head south on the journey that would take us to the edge of the Ashlands, as well as explore most of our Mistlands, and start the final journey that we would need to take ourselves all the way to the last boss fight, as well as progress the last two biomes. For this journey, I purposely left at nighttime for the possibility of serpents, because we still need a serpent trophy as well as some scales to make ourselves our trinket, which we do not have yet. Not to mention how nice it would be to have the meat from a couple of serpents, but we did find a couple on the way. And while a couple was really nice, I was kind of surprised that the entire journey, all the way south to the edge of the Ashlands from pretty much Altar, only yielded us 2. And we still have no trophy, which means we will likely have to come back out here and hunt serpents again unless we want to swim without the trinket, which just takes one of our possible tools away that might help us get there safely. But that being said, we found some Mistlands on our way down there, we marked out some possible mine locations as well as other POIs, and we got ourselves a portal established at the very southern point of a Mistlands, very, very close to the Ashlands, and that will likely be where we go when we're ready to swim. But we still have a lot more prep before we do it. There are a few tools that will help us in swimming to the Ashlands, but one of the very first ones that we need is fish. And why do we need fish? Well, we need fish so that we can make a Vanadier potion. Now, a Vanadier mead is really, really nice for swimming specifically, and when paired with the Eikthyr buff as well as the Fins of Destiny, it makes it pretty much impossible to run out of stamina, as well as you swim a lot faster, meaning the only thing we have to worry about for the entire swim is the burning, and because the Fins of Destiny will allow us to swim faster, we shouldn't have to worry about that too much either. So, we got the fish caught, we got the Vanadier potion made, and we are now heading back out to the water at nighttime to find ourselves the serpent trophy that we need for our Fins of Destiny, as well as a bunch more serpent meat for food. That's a mine for sure right there. Hold on. We need to get close enough to mark that. A mine for the day to start is not bad. We're not going in it yet, but that's cool. Those 3 rocks right there are mine. While at first I didn't find a serpent on my journey, we did find ourselves a infested mine that was guaranteed to be one just based on the rock structure, even though I couldn't see it yet. We got it marked on the map, and we will keep that in mind because we do still need a black forge at some point. But for the rest of the night, we just kept hunting serpents, and we killed so many over multiple days. Every single night, or every single storm, coming back out into the water to look for more serpents right at the edge of the Ashlands, between the Ashlands and the Mistlands. And finally, after a ridiculous amount of serpents and multiple days of looking for it, we got the lucky drop that we had been looking for. We got it, baby! Let's go! We caught it! Oh, thank God. That does not fix our problem of swimming to the Ashlands, but oh my God, it makes it so much easier. Part of why I was so hype about this was because during the Reverse series, we struggled so long with serpents that I ended up having to give up on the idea of having the Fins of Destiny and swimming without them, which made it a lot harder. But from this entire journey, I will say I am happy with one thing, and that is the insane amount of serpent meat that we got from it. And on top of that, we now have our Fins of Destiny made as we had the rest of the stuff that we needed. We have our Vanadier meads finally fermented after the nights of hunting serpents, and we are making our final stamina food to head to the Ashlands for the first time. And if this swim is successful, we are lining up really, really well to possibly even do this in under 50 days, which would be absolutely amazing. Or at least we were, until we got hit by one of the biggest surprises and biggest problems that we had run into in the entire challenge so far. Oh shit! Oh no. Oh, we're not oh shit. Yeah, prepped for this is something we are not! And that was probably an understatement even then. I still have troll hide, I have no weapons capable of killing these guys, and I only made a tiny bit of food for the Ashland swim, which I had to waste in order to try and get my stuff back and try and stop my base from being completely destroyed. Now, after a few deaths, the raid finally went away, and then with some more deaths, the fuelings finally despawned, but still, that was one of the most unexpected things that I could have had happen. I had to remake some of my food, and I'm really thinking now that I need to either get gear very fast or probably spawn block around my base, because that was not something that I was at all ready for. But with that complete disaster done, it is time to head to the Ashlands, and hopefully we don't get any more surprises like that on our way there. Almost instantly upon entering the Ashlands, we had ourselves a bone maw. Now this does seem bad, but because it doesn't actually do an insane amount of damage to the boat, as long as we kill it quickly, it's actually probably a good thing. We need the bone maw teeth and we need the bone maw meat, and even though it did slow us down a little bit because we had to go back and repair our boat after this, it did actually give us some better food that once we do enter the Ashlands, we will have as backup. But bone maw killed, we made it to the Ashlands and to the first spikes for us to put our first set of portals down, which is something that we're going to do here. We're going to put a bunch of sets of portals as we get closer in case we die or have something go wrong. Which I'm glad I had planned for having something go wrong, because oh god, did things decide that they did not want to go the way that I had planned. Oh shit, what a start. Oh my god, we're gonna fucking die. No! Just relax. We're fine. And with a not so smooth entry to the Ashlands, we actually had at least still made it up and got our first set of portals down. And like I said, we have a few of them, and we're going to name them and leave them on the map just as we move into the Ashlands, because if something goes wrong, I would like to have multiple checkpoints to get back. But so far, everything was going okay. I didn't exactly see where we were going to land at yet, but I did see buildings. I did see plenty of spikes in the distance for us to keep climbing on and looking for more land. And as long as we didn't have too many instances of like bone maws and vultures hanging out in the water, we're probably going to be okay. And I will also say, I'm pretty sure the Fins of Destiny are the only things that saved us from that vulture, and I didn't even realize it at the time. But I popped my Eikthyr buff to keep myself able to swim, and when I did, it activated the Fins of Destiny, which allowed me to swim slightly faster than the vulture was able to hit me from. But with all of that going at least okay, and not completely ruining our day, we did have something else about this Ashlands that was something that I had never really seen before. The land that you could see in the distance and that I had targeted from outside the Ashlands to land on wasn't land at all. It was actually an island that was like completely sunken, and something that was like almost at water level, almost at sea level, and almost even considered beach, in a way where even the Ashlands rocks that would only be on land were spawning in the water. But there was no actual land, and because of that, this would have made a really badass Ashlands base location, but it also means that we have no ability to actually do anything here, and that once we got pretty far south, we had to start heading either east or west to find any amount of progress. And now I was really just hoping, because I had used most of my resources to get here, that I had some amount of luck finding some trees in the distance or something that I could just swim to. The other thing about this being almost land as well was that the water waves had completely stopped, which means that if I caught myself on a pillar that I couldn't get up on, I was pretty much completely screwed. And the other thing was that it was really common for me to jump in the water, and instead of my character swimming faster with all of the insane stuff that I brought to help me swim, my character would be walking, because I was practically just wading in the water rather than actually swimming. On top of the weird land ocean that I was standing in that had no amount of progress towards it, I got myself into a really dangerous situation. I was up on a pillar with pretty much no way to kill vultures that were chasing me, and they were absolutely gunning to kill me. Now, if you guys don't know, if you hold a torch out, the vultures will not attack you, or if you are near any type of fire, which I know seems ridiculous, but it does really help, especially in situations like this where you are pretty much helpless to kill them. Maybe one more tick of health and I'll be okay. What the fuck? Okay. After dealing with the ridiculous vulture and bone maw situation, we were back out to swimming, and I had finally hit an area where it was back to actually being ocean, where I had waves again, which, while it felt like I was making backwards progress, at least meant I was moving away from that weird area that I was stuck in. At this point, I had gotten my Eikthyr buff back multiple times, and we had also been back to base multiple times. Sometimes I had gear on me, sometimes I didn't have gear on me, and that's just because we kept going back to base, switching stuff up and having different things on me. But because I hadn't really had anything catastrophic happen yet, like a death, we didn't actually really have to utilize our checkpoints up until this point. And that's when I finally saw the thing that gave me hope after swimming in the Ashlands water for over an hour. Say, there's no way that's what does that. Oh, trees, trees, trees! We see Ashlands! Where's that at? Okay. Oh my god. Is that a diverger structure right away? Okay. This is first portal location down right here. And after dropping that first portal out here in the water, we now have somewhat of a safe area to come back to if we need it. And I'm going to continue myself onto land, moving multiple sets of portals with me and trying to set them up throughout the Ashlands as I just run. And that way I can get back to whatever one I die closest to, and we can start exploring what will be the path towards the end of our 100 days challenge, which, still not even being at day 40, is a really good opportunity for us to get this done, and maybe even under 50 days. But as long as we don't make any really major and stupid mistakes, it should be okay. The very first thing I had to do as soon as getting into the Ashlands is to try and kill some Morgans. Now, we have a couple resources that we will need an absolute ton of. We have 3 of them that mainly we will need for our gear, and then we will also need the bell fragments as our main source of like progression. But for the purpose of our gear, we're going to need a bunch of Morgan sinew, we're going to need a bunch of aspen hide, and we're going to need a bunch of flame metal. With that, we should be able to make pretty much everything that we want to make. And because we have killed Motor, we should be able to smelt the flame metal and stuff no problem, and anything else that we need. But we started with the Morgan Den, and also with our Fang Spear and Troll Hide, we were also able to kill a few Aspen, which is really nice, as well as mark out a couple of possible flame metal nodes for the future. Now, keep in mind, this whole time that I'm running through the Ashlands, I am just leaving portals in certain areas that seem strategic just because of what they have around them. So if we find a charred fortress, we'll leave one nearby. If we find a diverger structure, we'll leave one there. And if we find a bunch of flame metal, we'll leave one there. And one of the first places that we left one was at a diverger structure. And in that diverger structure, I was able to get a couple of things to break the boxes in there, which did drop us flame metal. Now, it's not a lot, but it's enough to unlock the recipes and start working on a couple of small things here back at base, even if it's just something like the cooking area. And from this first journey in the Ashlands, we also got ourselves molten cores, which is going to allow us to teleport not just flame metal home, but also any other metal on the map. If we need to go get more iron, if we need more black metal, if we need stuff from the Mistlands, we can teleport all of it back with stone portals now, which will make this go a lot faster, and is why I wanted to push directly to the Ashlands rather than progressing there the normal way. Alright. First piece of flame metal. Bam. Oh, we can make rolling pins and cutting boards. Oh, dude, we'll be able to actually make a full set of all the cooking areas. Meaning we'll have decent food and stuff. Like, we'll be fully geared for the fodder fight whenever that comes. So that's nice. All right. Now, with flame metal back at base, as well as the ability to teleport metal wherever I needed to, it was time to go and backtrack a little bit. I wanted to just try and get myself a couple of black cores and a couple of other things from the Mistlands, so that way we can make our flame metal gear, and we can make everything that we need for the Ashlands. And we may even need some stuff from the Mistlands. If we decide to make the flame metal helmet, we will need refined Eikthyr, so we will probably end up doing a lot of that progression. But we now have stone portals, and we now have the stressful part of getting access to the Ashlands done. So if something really stupid happens, we have a little bit of time to figure it out, and we don't automatically lose everything that we've gone for. With that, though, I'm going to grab the motor buff, and we're going to sail from our portal that is at the edge of the Ashlands with a new boat back north to the nearby Mistlands, which I probably just should have left a portal at to begin with, but we'll get up there. We already know where a couple of mines are at, and we can start with those and hope that that's enough for us to be able to craft our stuff up. That's crazy. Brother, what? I'm gonna lose my boat. How does this happen? That's crazy. Hold on, I'm fucking stuck. Oh my god, I'm stuck under the boat. We're gonna fucking die in here. First of all, lost my nails to that, for sure. Second of all, got stuck under the damn boat. Oh my god, dude. What is that, game? What is that? Why could that happen? So yeah, realistically, I blamed the game for my own stupidity of dropping my boat in the water like that. But to be fair, I did not know that the boat could flip over and get stuck like that until just now. And riding it while it was like that was definitely not the idea. But because I lost my nails and my deer hide, I'm going to have to go get more. And, I mean, I don't really have another option. I'm just going to have to not drop it from the top of the spire this time. Oh, game. We're not doing this again, right? Come on, please. Why? Why? Why would it do that? Guys, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. What do I do about this? Why? Why? And luckily this time I was a lot smarter, not with dropping the boat itself, but with being able to get the stuff back. I stood right where the sail would be if it was flipped upside down, and then from there I got everything back, so I can just replace it this time. But be extremely careful placing your boats in the water if you are holding shift, because holding shift allows you to place them on land. That being said, third time's the charm. We got it pushed out to sea a little bit further. It's still being broken though, and I still need to pick up my portal on the top of the spire. And it was much harder to repair, get up the spire to grab the portal, and then get down to get back on the boat before it broke and get out of the Ashlands. It was a lot harder to do that than I thought it was going to be. However, we got the portal, we were able to get a last repair on the boat, and really the only thing I ended up losing was the 10 wood from the workbench, which is totally okay. And honestly, I almost stayed there trying to grab it until I realized that the boat was actively breaking. So we popped our motor buff, and we are on our way back to the Mistlands, where I have a mine already marked out. We can start running through it, and we can hope for our 5 black cores to start making our Ashlands gear. Now, right off the bat, I have to do this mine a little bit differently than normal. I had to kind of rush past a couple things and not try and fight too much, and that's because I have a Fang Spear, I do not have a decent shield, and I only have a silver helmet and troll hide still on, which means me parrying or fighting really isn't going to do much in here. However, I did spot a few easy black cores in the entrance, and I spotted a few down below inside of a bigger room, but it was so filled with ticks, there were so many Seeker soldiers, and I finally got to a point where so much stuff had followed me to the entrance that I had to make a really risky play to try and get down to where I knew the black cores were at. And while it almost did work, I underestimated severely how much stuff was in the bottom of this next room, and I got my body trapped in a really dangerous area that would likely cost us a lot of time, if not most of the playthrough that we had already done. It took me an insane amount of deaths, and I actually had a different idea that I had done back at base, but even that didn't help. See, at base, I decided that maybe I could make a black metal axe and a black metal shield because I had the chains and I had extra black metal from the fueling raid. So why not make that, use the linen that I had from the flax that I had already gotten, and then make a couple weapons, make a good shield, and see if I could use that to get my body out. And it did not work. I also lost that body right inside the entrance, but finally, I got a really good run where everything was positioned correctly, where I could not only grab my first body, but also grab myself my new black metal axe and black metal shield. And with that shield, I had a much easier time parrying and clearing stuff inside of this dungeon. Also paired with ooze bombs, made it so I could actually kill all of that insane stuff that was guarding my body and the bottom room. Get down there, grab my black cores, run past the last couple things that were down here like a 1-starred Seeker soldier, and get out of this place with enough cores for a black forge, and hopefully I would never have to come back. Now, the upside of everything I had just gone through was I now had all of my black cores, and I also now had a black metal axe, which I used more black metal than I wanted to, and I will now have to probably go back and get more, especially because of the black metal shield. But we got our black cores, we now have black metal axe, which allows us to get the wood that we'll need, and that allows us to make our black forge. That'll also allow us to make our pickaxe here in a minute, and alongside the black forge, I also got to make 2 upgrades for it. Now, that's because flame metal gear has to have a pretty high level black forge, so we are actually going to need most of the upgrades for it. But for right now, that is a ton of progress from such a crappy time in the Mistlands. And though our death counter is very high, we are still on track to have a great run. But if we want to beat this by day 50, instead of day 100, we gotta pick it up because it is already day 45. And before we go to the Ashlands, I have a few pre-Ashlands things I need to clean up. I still need to make my black metal pickaxe, and I also want to have a sap tap going and an iter refinery. Now, mainly we're going to have the black forge up, but I can use those 5 cores to also make an iter refinery. And we will need that for the flame metal helmet if I want the full armor that I have the capability to build. And because we still have some time, I do want to try and get as well prepared as I can. But the first step to that is getting magic stuff set up in the Mistlands, and while that's going, I'm going to head over to a nearby plains to pick up more black metal for the pickaxe and for a few other things, because I have pretty much exhausted the amount that I originally brought back. Now, right on the shore of this plains, there was a fueling village, which should give us plenty, and we also have our stone portal over here, which is going to be phenomenal. That is going to be the thing that saves us so much time in the last little bits of this run, is the fact that we went to the Ashlands first, got our stone portal, and can now teleport back stuff like black metal from anywhere on the map. But we still have to get the black metal, so let's clear out this area, let's get everything that we need, and let's get this back to base and smelt it. While that good bit of black metal is smelting, I went ahead and brought back the boat back to where I had originally been in the Mistlands, because it was very, very close to the plains that we were sitting in. And from there, I was able to grab my sap and come back with our new black metal and make ourselves the iter refinery. Now, we already have a ton of soft tissue from the Morgan dens, as well as I broke some crates in the diverger structures, but we're going to let that go. We're going to make our black metal pickaxe, and we're going to go back to the Ashlands and start getting an actual amount of flame metal. It might not be easy, it might be fairly dangerous, but if we can get the flame metal in a little bit of bulk, we will have an absolutely phenomenal time pushing the last little bit of the Ashlands. And we will be really well geared to handle pretty much anything that comes at us, but we have to get over there and get the flame metal first, and I will tell you guys that my first journey to get flame metal was quite precarious. The flame metal node I had found was way out into the lava, and that is a problem, because that means that we will likely have to either build out to it using wood, which will probably burn, or we will have to use our aspen hide to make ourselves some basalt bombs, which I really don't have the stuff for. So what I decided was the best idea possible was to build out a beam that I would not be able to jump back onto, out towards the flame metal ore, and to just jump from there. And the exact thing I said on stream was, how am I going to get back? That's a problem for later me. And it exactly was a problem for later me, but there is a current problem that I had to face first. I hadn't cleared anything around this, so the vultures were absolutely attacking me the entire time. But finally, after getting enough flame metal for Slayer, I decided that maybe I should go back, get a little bit of a smarter setup going to where I could bring back more at a time and in a more consistent way. And as I went back, I made a horrible mistake. Pretty quick death. We're gonna probably have to die a few times to grab that back. It is what it is. And oh god, was I wrong. It was not just what it was. It took me like 7 deaths and a complete loss of sanity by the end of that stream to get that body back. However, after 7 deaths, I was able to get my flame metal ore up into a tower and just head back to base for the stream, where the next day I came back and put down a stone portal, grabbed the flame metal that I had left on the ground nearby, and brought it back to base to start turning it into Slayer. And while that stuff is smelting, we're going to go look for a first charred fortress, because if we can find a good one with a good way to enter, we will be able to make ourselves some flame metal gear and absolutely start ripping through these fortresses once I'm properly armored and can do a proper bit of damage. The first piece of what I was able to make when we came back was actually the flame metal helmet. I decided that a small bit more armor without slowing myself down was going to help the next part of what I had to do. Because I wanted pretty much full gear going into those charred fortresses, because losing my body in there without full gear would be really bad. And even if I lost my body in there, it would be terrible, but having full gear when I picked my body back up would make it easier to survive. So I had to go on an absolute Morgan hunt, because for a Slayer and for the gear that we want, we are going to need so much Morgan sinew as well as Morgan heart. So that is what I went on the hunt for, killing a bunch of Morgans, and even having a 2-star diverger help me in the process, which is something that protected one area around one of my portals for pretty much most of the run every time I went over there. And then from there, we used the much smarter decision of making basalt bombs to get the rest of the flame metal that I would need to continue smelting while I worked on a couple of other things. Now, first of all, this shouldn't be enough flame metal for us to make all of our gear. This is just enough to make a couple of pieces of gear to make the charred fortresses easier. However, now with basalt bombs and a little bit of extra resources, I should be able to get this stuff much safer, and I should be able to count on the charred fortresses having a decent amount of what I need inside of them, though that's not always super consistent. But with the next bit of flame metal we brought back, the Slayer was now on the menu. And even if I didn't have good armor, the Slayer is so much better at doing damage that I would at least have a fair fight with almost everything. And the other thing that we did was kill an abomination for roots, because we are going to make an arbalist very, very soon. Before we do that, though, we got another piece of the cooking station made so that we can make slightly better food. We got the arbalist made, and I headed to the charred fortress that was right next to one of the portals to start building up, using the arbalist to break the spawners, and then hopefully luring everything out to fight it with the Slayer. Holy fuck! Adios, my friend. How did he go that far? What is happening? Why is he so, like... Already doing this, fighting that first thing, and seeing it absolutely fly as I parried it made me feel so much better just having the Slayer, even though I'm still in pretty terrible armor. And it's honestly kind of a badass looking armor set, even though it's terrible. But we were able to use the arbalist just as I planned, using bone bolts and carpus bolts to shoot everything inside the fortress that was a structure that we wanted to break, breaking one of the corners to allow stuff to fall out of it, and then slowly just luring stuff and having it fall out, fighting it one at a time, because right now I really cannot take a horde of things. But now that I have everything cleared from inside the fortress, it's time to look inside the chests, as well as the center of the fortress, to see how many bell fragments we got, if we have a boss location, and how much extra flame metal I just saved myself from farming. The outside of the fortress wasn't too overwhelming, but we did get 15 flame metal, which is pretty decent, and we also got a bloodstone, which is what we will need for one of the Black Forge upgrades to continue upgrading our set as well as our weapons. But the real treat was what was inside the tower. Oh, we got the location. I see it. I see it. We've got the location. Oh, it's so close. I love it. 4 bell fragments, because why wouldn't we? Oh, we got 3. That's good enough. Oh, we got 2 iolite. Oh, guys. I mean, okay. Really not that much flame metal, but I can live with that. I can live with that. Heading back to base with the stuff I had just claimed, we now have the gem cutter for our Black Forge, which unlocks the variations for the iolite that I was wanting, so I can make the Scourging Slayer, also known as the Lightning Slayer, as soon as I get a little bit more flame metal. So I headed out to grab a tiny bit more, and not thinking I did exactly what I had done to myself previously. At least this time it didn't take almost 10 deaths to get my body back. I was able to grab it pretty easily, but it was still a stupid death to have, and we're now at 33 of them, which is kind of insane. However, we were able to get a bunch more flame metal, and bringing that back to base, before I make the Scourging Slayer, I decided that armor was more important, so I went ahead and made my flame metal greaves, and that will quickly be followed by everything else once the flame metal I just grabbed is smelted. But I decided to head over with a portal to the boss location, because why not? And on my way over there, I found something terrifying. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but inside this little stone ring of arches is actually one of the Durnwyn fragments, which means that we will have 2-starred charred warriors and archers spawning all around us while we are doing the boss fight, unless we get rid of that, or unless we decide to try and keep the boss as far away from that side of the arena as possible, which is probably the route that I will take. But with that found, and with our charred fortress done, it is time to explore the rest of the island to see if there are any more charred fortresses, or if I'm going to have to swim again. What the fuck? Bro, what the fuck was that? That was ridiculous. We should not have lived through that? That was too much. After running around this island for a lot of time, and after that near-death experience, which I definitely should have died during, I was able to find ourselves another lava field. Now, I was very sure running around that this entire island had been mined, but finding a tiny little land bridge to another island is normally how the Ashlands goes, and it's exactly how this one went. So, we have a new area full of lava fields and full of charred fortresses and flame metal nodes. And while I do see a charred fortress, we're going to get some flame metal first, because there are a couple really easy nodes right next to the shore. I brought my stone portal with me, and not taking advantage of having the best gear possible before doing those charred fortresses would be pretty stupid. In between flame metal nodes, I was able to get the last piece of my cooking setup made, which means we can now make every piece of food in the game, other than the stuff that needs flour, because I don't have a food prep table, and I also don't have a windmill that I've made, and I'm too lazy to make one. But after making that, I went on another couple of trips for some more flame metal, and from that, I was able to produce myself my flame metal breastplate, which is going to be the thing that allows me to feel comfortable doing the next fortress. It's not the best armor I could ever have, but it's going to be a world of difference from the troll hide that I had on the last fortress, and we should be able to get through this so much faster. With this second fortress, I decided to use a slightly interesting and definitely very stupid tactic, but one that actually may end up working. And that was to use a corpse run to help myself get through this fortress faster. Because when you have corpse run, you are resistant to a lot of types of damage, and I had already died from a couple of things that had fallen out of the fortress. I decided that because the spawners were already broken, that if I could jump in there and kill everything before my corpse run ran out, that I would maybe be able to clear this much faster than I would be able to otherwise. Down under here real quick. Out of most of our food, but that's okay. You know, with Corpse Run, I might be absolutely resistant to everything in here. Okay, that doesn't mean this was a good idea, but... Actually, it wasn't bad. Nice. Little ridiculous, but I think that was fun. Oh, dude, having the armor is so nice. Corpse Run's insane. And yeah, Corpse Run is truly insane. It gives you a ton of resistances while also healing you faster than most health potions, meaning that it is really, really good for situations like that as long as you make sure that it doesn't run out. But also dying there could have meant a really big loss of time, so it was kind of risky either way. But dropping into this fortress, we have 4 more bell fragments, a really good amount of flame metal, and a new safe spot in the Ashlands on a new part of the island that will allow me to go towards a bunch of much closer fortresses from where my other portals are at. But with that extra flame metal and the other stuff we got, let's head back to base, let's make a few more pieces of gear, and let's head out towards that last charred fortress. Specifically for gear, the big 2 things that we're missing is I wanted to upgrade my Slayer to the Scourging Slayer, as it has a chance to trigger lightning damage that does a ton of lightning, and that will be great for the boss fight and also great for the fortress. But I also wanted the Ashen Cape, as it is one of the cheapest upgrades you can get for armor, and it still gives the same amount of armor per upgrade that any other piece of armor would, so it's really nice to have. As well as it's a super heavy amount of armor for just being a cape on your back. But with that, I'm going to jump into a fortress that's pretty much not cleared at all, and see if I can take it. Alright, we have one more fire, or we got 2 more fire res. Okay, we're just gonna use them. I was hoping that would happen. Thing. There we go. 2 bell fragments, that's okay though. Holy, see, what is this? Why couldn't we have gotten this earlier? Brother, what is this? 56 in a chest. With that, though, we have a ton of extra flame metal for any upgrades we may possibly want. We have enough stuff to make our last bell, which we're going to do real quick. Throw all the bells in the chest. We're going to work on getting everything upgraded that I can. I'm going to throw as much flame metal as I have at our armor, at our upgrades if we need to, and at anything else that I can. We're going to make a good bit of food, which we've killed a lot of Aspens and been grabbing fiddleheads and vine berries and stuff as we've been running around. So we should have plenty of food. We should have plenty of armor. And based on the last couple times I've done this boss fight, I am way more geared than I was then. We're going to get a good rested buff setup so that I can stay in the fight longer, and if we do die, we don't have to come back here nearly as often. And I think it is time, with all of our bells made and everything that we have upgraded, to head to the fight on day 66, hope that I don't screw anything up so bad that I lose my portal. And while I am not going through this in less than 50 days, if we beat this challenge right now, there's a chance that I try in the future. Where's he landing at? Oh, right fucking on top of me, maybe? Alright, let's go. Dude, I'm so excited for this. Had to block a little bit. Ran out of stamp. That's fine. Stamp potions is the only thing we do not have. We're going to try and stay close the whole time. Okay, I'm kind of testing the waters a little bit with how much damage I can get done in one hit. A little bit of stam regen. Okay, we got that coming down. When we get away from the meteors, we're going to try and aggro this other guy. I'd like to actually not fight the other warrior, but... yeah, that hurts. Oh, dude, he's just... this warrior's in such an assholey spot. Out of here, out of here, out of here, please. Okay. That one doesn't scare me. That's one of the fires that does not hurt. It says right hand up and then the scary ass sounds that are gonna hurt you. Alright, let's stop being quite so stupid with that one. That's the one that will kill you. You also have a real hard time hitting him during that. Stab you in your stupid face. I want to get under him, but I don't want to be standing in that. To be fair, this entire fight, I was trying to get every single little bit of damage I could. Between every attack, between every dodge, and even sometimes getting extra attacks in when I had the stamina. And I really suggest that you guys do the same during this fight, because this boss is not insanely hard because it does too much damage or because it has too much health. It's insanely hard because it's very overstimulating and distracting the entire time. So you need to dodge around all the distractions, keep constantly damaging the boss so that it can't heal, and keep getting in as much damage as you can at every opportunity you think possible. Ow. Oh, we're being stupid again. Trying new attack combos to see what I can hit with. Hey. Get me outside of your... dude, if you get pushed away by his head, it's so fat and in the way. Beautiful. Beautiful. More melee, please. We just need to leave small openings in those fires when we do them to make sure that we have an opening for a melee fight. That's about it. Should be under that. Half health. About. We're getting there, at least. Then we'll start dealing with summons, though, and this will start to slow down a hell of a lot more. I need to stop doing that or it's gonna break my fucking sword. This is a precarious spot to be standing, I will say that. Love this. Try and ignore the summons for now if I can. A lot of them shouldn't be able to walk through that circle. More damage I can get done now, the better, even if I'm getting shot in the back constantly. Onto the actual fight, yep. I'm gonna try and do basic melees so I can hit them too. Oh damn, that was too early. Needs, yeah, hold on. That was the only fucking important one. Damn, this hurts. There's a lot of ads, dude. I'm just gonna keep fighting through it, though. He's gonna summon. Yeah, I knew it. We're just far enough away to have it happen. Oh my lord. The other part that sucks is when you're blocking like this. Oh shit, that's gonna hurt. When you're blocking like this, all of the other stuff is hitting you, taking your stam down because you're blocking technically. I hate it. No. Let's go. I couldn't. Oh my god, we got it off before the rested. We got it off before the rested. Day 66, baby. Oh my god. Holy shit. That was an awesome playthrough. And with the final boss on the altar on day 66, we've officially beat the challenge before day 100, which is amazing, and it's got something going in the back of my mind at the exact same time. But first, let's talk about the boss fight itself. I actually learned a lot of things in that boss fight. Something that I've been noticing a lot more is that you can do single hits with almost any Ashlands tier weapon to the spawns that the boss has, and you have pretty much a 100% chance of killing them in one strike, which means that you can just do single melees, more worry about dodging the the boss's attacks, and you should be able to clear them out pretty easily. Now, that's really only if you can take the shots from the archers, but you should be able to if you're an Ashland skier. If you're doing a challenge or something where you can't, that's a different story. The other thing was that, dude, blocking and holding the block while you're waiting for the attack to happen is really inefficient during that fight because you're constantly losing stamina to all of the arrows hitting you if the spawns are still around. The other thing that I want to point out is I had one dodge during this fight that I didn't even notice until editing that was absolutely insane. It was 2 parries, one, a second one, and then like a frame or two after that, a perfect dodge. And that is just something that even I watching it back was like, what the hell did I just do? So though that fight is one that I've done 100 times, it is just proof that the more you do this stuff, the better you get at it and the more small stuff that you learn, even if it's your 100th time on the fight. But that being said, let's go to the negative part of what I was thinking about. Not even necessarily negative, but just cause for improvement next time. You see, I had been thinking this entire time, and it was happening in chat too, because if you guys didn't know, this entire thing was streamed and all the VODs are in the description. But in chat the entire time, people were saying you can make it by day 50, you can make it by day 50. And I really thought that too. And then we had a couple small mess ups like in the Mistlands and the Ashlands that led us to not be able to make it by day 50. But because we were so close, day 66, I really had the thought that if we had slept less, been a little bit smarter, and just not made as many mistakes, that we really could have gotten this challenge in under 50 days. And I kind of shelved that in the back of my mind as, you know what, maybe after 1.0 comes out, we'll try and beat the Ashlands in 50 days, or we'll try and do something like that. But then we rated out on stream, and if you guys don't know what rating out is, it pretty much means that you take everybody on your stream and you go see one of your friends, or maybe a stranger, and you show all your viewers their stream. And so we went to see one of my friends, Spacey, who's all her links is down in the description if you guys want to see her challenge me to this specifically. And she also said this.
How is your challenge? Are you almost there? Are you going to complete? How many days did it take? 66. I dare you to do it in 50 now. Next one. I dare you to do it in 50.
And so I'm really like, man, I think it, chat thinks it, my friends think it, I think I have to do it in under 50 days. So if you guys want to see that, please let me know down in the comments, as I really think that I can do this in under 50 days. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.